we will make a start. So a brief background, it dates back to the summer of 2017, when Lou Cooper, myself and Sarah Costerton all met up at, where did we meet? Tate Britain in Pimlico, and basically sort of talked about the fact that there was, particularly around maternity, it felt like there wasn't enough being done on a national scale, and so we decided to try and pull people together. And in February 2019, the photo top right there was our inaugural meeting at Parliament. So there's various folk there from different local support groups, and Liz Corcoran from the Down Syndrome Research Foundation, Lynn Murray from Don't Screen Us Out, and Lord Chin Quinn was hosting the event. But so that dated back to 2019, and later that year, PADS, Positive About Down Syndrome, hosted a 4-day event at Parliament. There's a photo there at the bottom of me pointing my finger at the then Health Minister, Matt Hancock. Enough said. And basically, and at that point, I kind of discovered that there was no no charity representing people with Down syndrome. There was no APPG, no all-party parliamentary group. So decided we needed to do something, and so that's how the policy group officially was formed, and off the back of that we launched the all-party parliamentary group in May 2021. So here endeth the history lesson. So from the policy group, there are probably biggest achievement, which I think will be difficult to top, was getting a bill through Parliament. And there are some images of us. It was a fantastic event. Got background, sorry if someone's got a mic on. There we are, first of all, top right, when we were campaigning. We got loads of press, and then the rest of the images of us celebrating. Anyone who knows me can see a lot of bit of branding going on, and it was amazing. Battersea Power Station lit up the chimneys in the policy group's colours to celebrate the enactment. So, okay, so yeah, the enactment came back off the back of a Down syndrome bill, which private members bill, introduced by Liam Fox. It got cross-party support, and I believe it was the last bill that the Queen signed. It was in April 2022 that it became enacted. And it absolutely was a world first. There is nowhere else in the world that has an act that's gone through their Parliament specifically for people with Down syndrome. So off the back of that, it's taken a really long time. It's been painful for all of us, believe me. We finally got some guidance. So we've been waiting from the civil servants to produce draft guidance, which has been well over a year since we first saw the first draft. So that's now been published, and that really is what we're wanting to share with you about this evening, because we have the opportunity to feed back to the government our views on what that guidance of, how we feel about it. So I'm going to hand over to Jules to continue. This is the only transition I can remember. So.
Don't worry, it'll be fine. So, just to give you a bit more background, what as part of the policy group, what we did is we've obviously been working quite closely with the government many governments because it's taken that long to get through. And these are images of people with Down syndrome who have actually contributed to the call for evidence. And what we're really keen to do is to make sure that as many people's voices are heard as possible, and that all the work that took place when we met with the civil servants isn't lost in translation to the guidance that is now in place now. So that's one of the reasons that we've got you all together tonight, is to try and highlight some of the errors and the omissions that are in there, so that we can make sure that these sessions themselves are being truly represented in what will be the end result of the guidance. And in true Nick Hancock style, Nick, yeah, next slide, please. So this, don't expect you to read any of this, but the National Down Syndrome Policy Group, as well as lots of the support groups, also put in call for evidence, and these are the key highlights here. that the collective of the National Down Syndrome Policy Group, the guys who filled in then our survey that we then submitted to the government, these are some of the key issues that they said that they wanted to be covered when the guidance came out. Some of it's, you'd be pleased to know, some of it has started to make movement on. There is some progress in some places. So here are some of the progresses. Progresses, I don't think that's a word, but there you go. Families wanted to know, up until January 2025, local authorities and schools didn't know where our children were being educated. There was nothing on the school census that allowed local authorities to understand where the demographics were of our young people. So now that is now being counted. So that as of January 2025, the next set of census for school census is obviously just happened in January 2026. Now, what that means is when there's school budgets and when obviously we've currently got the SEND reform going through, it means that local authorities will have data about how to help fund certain schools and where to put some of their resources, hopefully where to put some of their specialist training. So that's a good step in the right direction already. Down syndrome is now on the learning disability register. And the last one that I can't remember that was up there, Nick.
Sorry, I'm
No,
moving
that's
on.
okay. That's okay. And the biggest thing that came out of the consultation was that families felt that there was diagnostic overshadowing, and we'll go into that in more detail about how we want to try and combat that with this session and with the guidance itself. On to the next one, Nick. So with Down syndrome Cheshire, with my Down syndrome Cheshire hat on, what my families in Cheshire said that they wanted was automatic education, health, and care plans. They wanted automatic access to things like disability living allowance, even if it was at the lowest level. And most importantly, that they wanted the professionals who worked with our families in Cheshire, and again, this is replicated nationally, that they would have specific training about what the learning profile is with the child with Down syndrome. Now, again, there's been some movement on that in terms of the reform. The white paper came out yesterday. There is a probability that Down syndrome might be named as one of those conditions that will have automatic accessibility and eligibility to an education healthcare plan. We don't know that for certain as we sit here now, but there's a definite possibility that that might be the case. And that's been something that we've been working on in the background as part of the Down Syndrome Act to make sure that our families voices are being heard and being reflected. So we're just waiting for the next stage of announcements to confirm or deny that. Okay, so what else have we got? So what is the purpose of the guidance? So it's basically offer guidance to the public authorities such as local authorities, integrated care boards, so that's the NHS to you and I, to support them in delivering services that is responsive to and appropriately meets the specific needs of people with Down syndrome. And again, I just want to come back to that specific needs of people with Down syndrome, because there has been ambiguity over the time about what the Act actually covers, and how we want to address some of those issues within this consultation. So next slide, please, Nick. So what's been the feedback so far? So we've had an extension, which is great, which means that we do have an opportunity to actually get some of this feedback. And so far, people are saying, brilliant, at last, there is something that's all in one place. So if we were to send this through to, I don't know how many of you on the call this evening have actually taken a look at the consultation, but for us as a charity, with my DSC hat on, I can go to my staff team and say, okay, any new staff members, look through this, everything, all those different pieces of legislation that might relate to our community are all in one place. So that's great news. The other great news is that our members who've got Down syndrome have worked really, really hard. You saw the images before about how they contributed, but they've also been at the meetings with the parliamentarians And they've been saying you need to speak to us in our language and there needs to be an easy read version available. And there is. I mean, that's legislation anyway, but it came out at the same time as the actual guidance itself. And the content is overall good. You know, credit where credit is due, but this is our opportunity to make it even better. And there are some howling errors in it. So, one of the howling errors is that people with Down syndrome, it says, are very likely to have a learning disability. Well, we know from research after research around the world that actually everybody with Down syndrome has some form of learning disability. There is no mention of Down syndrome specific training. And the actual completion of the survey themselves, if any of you have actually gone through it, is actually it's quite narrow and sends you down a path. So we have raised and escalated that with both MPs and civil servants to say the structure of the consultation is tricky. So we'll give you ways. This webinar will help you kind of navigate that to make it easier for you, and also to make sure that your voices are captured a little bit better. Top tips and cheat sheets, really, I guess. So the contents of the structure, there's, excuse me, these are all the topics that are that you can complete. You don't have to do it all, by the way. You can skip some of them if they're not appropriate for you. So if you haven't actually got to the housing stage journey and you haven't got anything to contribute on that, then you can just skip all of those bits. Now, the annex is really where it comes to life. The annex has got all of the resources. So if you were, for argument's sake, a new TA and you wanted to understand how to support people with Down syndrome, the annex gives those good examples of that. There is opportunity to continue to contribute to that. So, you know, if there are some fantastic resources that you think should be in there, here's your time to actually highlight that. I know that DSUK's work is referenced in there quite a lot. We might want to get that in a little bit more. And if you feel that there's certain pieces of resources that you have used that you found quite helpful over the time, again, it's your opportunity to link that and make the government aware that these are some really good practice resources. Next slide, please, Nick. So here are the easy revisions, and we're going to go through these not line by line, but we're going to give you. We are going to focus on this for two reasons. One is that our ask is if you do have members of your family who have got Down syndrome, who you think could complete this, then excuse me. The National Down Syndrome Policy Group have taken the two government easy read documents and broken them down further. One of them is something like, I don't know, 50 pages, and the other one is about 30 pages. So basically, one of them is saying, read this, hold all this information in your head. And the second one is saying, right now, here's a load of questions about packet number one, booklet number one. You need to answer those questions. Well, we all know that our community, that's going to be really difficult for them. So what we've done is we've broken down the sections to say, read this, here are the questions, read that, here are the questions. And we've also identified what some of the gaps are so that they can have their opinion on some of the things that they've already told us that they want to be in there that might not be in there. So it's a really good resource to take a look at. That's what they look like. They're very pretty and they're very well branded. So thank you very much, Nick. So what is the missing content? There is a little bit of low expectations throughout it all. We need to set higher expectations, reasonable expectations, but we need, just when you're completing it, think about where you want your young person to be and have your narrative around that. This isn't an exhaustive list, by the way, and this is where you have an opportunity that if you've got your own personal lived experience that isn't covered and isn't reflected in some of this, certainly some of the health side of it, it's your opportunity to reflect that. These are some of the things that, again, that we've looked at and we've put it through. What we did is we took all of our call for evidence and we got all of the guidance. We stuck it through several AI sausage machines that popped out what the gaps were, and then we actually got humans to do that same piece of work. So these are the most consistent things that that all of that work kind of identified. So again, Nick, you'll be sending all this out, won't you, Nicola?
We
After the
will, I was thinking that. We'll be sending out copies of these slides. We'll also be sending, we've pulled together a sort of three or four page document that highlights some of the things that DSUK in particular notices, 80% of which are covered by the policy group. But just in light of, we do a lot of work around breastfeeding and constipation. And so they were a couple, that we perhaps featured over and above, well, constipation, I think was going. But yes, you'll be getting an email in the next couple of days with all these slides, but also with sort of crib sheets that you'll be able to work off that are prompts really. We've identified the things that we as a community first collected in the call for evidence, which was 2-3 years ago now, I lose track of time. And then those that, as charities, we've each sort of perhaps focused in on some of the things where we can see there are gaps. But by all means, as Jules says, if there's something that your family has experienced that isn't covered, do include that. Oh, someone's drawing on my screen. I've no idea how to control that.
very clever, isn't it?
Be offensive, please. If it's boring, just switch off. So, but
Or
yes,
just
all this
love hearts if you like it, that'd be great. Right, okay, on to the next one. Okay, so this is a fundamental. We know from the call for evidence that, again, the government uses AI to analyze all the responses that come back. So we're kind of trying to play the game a little bit. And we're asking people to keep mentioning that actually we need people who are supporting our families to understand what that unique profile is for people with Down syndrome. That actually they may well differ, certainly in the education setting, to perhaps other people with learning disabilities. So if we can use Down syndrome specific training, if you are completing this online, to and keep repeating it, it will help with those algorithms, and it will help break through when the AI starts doing that analysis. And what it actually obviously helps to do is reduce the unconscious bias and the stereotypes and start to set higher expectations. The more people we train, the more people that understand the brilliance of our community, the higher expectations that will happen. It helps prevent this diagnostic overshadowing, the assumption that everything is down to Down syndrome. And I know, Nick, you've got many, many examples of diagnostic overshadowing, and it's something that we're going to be at the summit that we're running, that I'll come on to later in the day, is we're going to act out and explain to our community what diagnostic overshadowing looks like, because it's really important that everybody understands that this isn't okay. We can't just keep putting things down to the fact that our children have Down syndrome. It helps raise awareness of Down syndrome specific learning profile. It helps families being presented with more positive outlook of their children. And it helps the community have age appropriate treatment, dignity, and reduces the risks of our adults continually being treated like children. And obviously, it's upskilling the education, health, and social care. So we're hoping again that if we can use and keep lobbying this, and again, the time is right now. There's a massive amount of money that's just been released yesterday with regards to workforce training about around SEND reforms. Let's get this in there. If our children are named as having eligibility for an EHCP, and they're seen as that requirement box is ticked, well, again, great opportunity for us to remind people that's great, but let's get the workforce trained to make sure that they know how to support our young people in the best way possible. Next slide, please, Nick.
and having us just included in the what do you think? Consensus for schools. All these things contribute
Yeah.
toward, the data being there. Sorry, not moving.
Being included on the school census, we know that every local authority and government acts on data. and that's what it makes it really important that that has actually been included. I mean, I can't believe how long it's taken us to get it in there, but it's a real win.
Mm.
Okay, so the actual document itself is 153 pages. So, if you're bored one night and you can sit there, printing it off is not, yeah, you sent yours to the printers though, didn't you? Printing it off at home is a pain in the neck. Oh, I
I
have.
pressed the wrong button. One moment.
So I will carry on whilst you figure it out. Um, so what we suggest you do, or what I certainly did, is that I read the easy read version first. Um, just to get an idea and a flavour of what it is. Well done, Nick, thanks. Um, yeah, so start with the easy read. As I said earlier, you don't have to complete it all if some aspects of it aren't relevant to you. Think about your own personal experiences. Be you, use your own lived experiences, and think about the gaps that we've highlighted. And again, there is a user guide to this. So, we've got in here this is just one example. You might agree that this is what an example of the question, by the way. So this is how it will look when you go into it. So the guidance will have a positive impact on people with Down syndrome. I'm just going to have to move you all, and their families and or carers. So you may choose to strongly agree, disagree, or whatever you choose on that. And then we've given you some suggested perhaps wording. Overall, I agree. However, I believe the guidance should go further. Important gaps still remain in the content. And again, we start mentioning about Down syndrome specific training. Now, the difference between filling it in online or filling it in this version and filling in the easy read version is this: you are limited, other than this question, you are limited to 250 characters. So that's why we've fed back to the government. Actually, that's quite limiting. Easy read version, you've got free flowing. You can use as many words as you like. So that is a fundamental difference between the two.
Yeah.
Okay, Nick?
250 words, not characters.
Sorry,
It's
250 words.
still very, very
Yes.
limiting.
Okay. Let me. So a bit of a reality check, and again, we've moved on even from when we kind of started yesterday. Reality, nothing is perfect. The national backdrop, the education white paper next year, the education white paper is now, and we know there is no EHCP removal, and we're very hopeful that Down syndrome is going to be recognised as one of those conditions that get an automatic EHCP. We know that the benefits reform still needs to take place, and again, we are continuing to lobby on that. So things like DLA and universal credit, access to work, all of those kind of things. However, this is still your chance and your opportunity to influence this change. Okay. Next slide, please.
Gone?
Yeah. So there are a couple of things that we still would like you to do, if that's okay. And again, with embedded in all of this are some links to the National Down Syndrome Policy Group resources. So there is a sample template letter to send to MPs outlining what we have identified as these gaps. So the fact that there's inaccuracies, the fact that Down syndrome specific training, we talk about speech and language provision, etc. So please do keep bombarding your MPs, and let's not get lost in the noise of the white paper either, between now and the closing date, which is the 30th of March. So far, we've had about 400 families who have written to MPs, so we just need to keep getting that number up. And we need to keep pushing. It's just a template letter. It takes you literally 2 minutes to do. So we've hosted a number of advisory group sessions. We will, as a group, as Nick has also talked about, we will also craft a report to the civil servants to say what it is that you guys have been telling us, either support groups or individuals, and tell them where the gaps are. We've looked at getting legal confirmation around the shoulds and musts in the framework itself, and we will be feeding that into the civil servant scorecard that we give back, and we will continue to raise the issues with all party parliamentary group on Down syndrome. And they are the group that will raise and write letters to the ministers and contact the civil servants on our behalf to raise these issues and concerns that we have with the content. Next slide, please, Nick.
I'd overskip one, so sorry, that was preceding, but that's the links to what you then talk about, the easy read.
Yeah, so there is a user guide in there which goes through in more detail what those gaps are. We did an edited highlight on here. There is a letter to MP. There's the easy read pack. There is also an invitation to MPs for the APPG and an easy read version. If you want your young person to actually write to your MP to become part of the APPG, there's an easy read version of that letter too.
Yeah. And MPs do respond I find better to Tom than to me.
Yeah, cool. Okay. So the next step is read the consultation guide. Easy read or otherwise. Complete the consultation questions. The deadline is the 26th of March. No, it's not. 30th of March. Write to your MPs and keep sharing. There has been a number of consultation parties that have taken place around the UK, hosted by local support groups. We're doing ours. That's Cheshire are doing ours on Saturday. And that's an opportunity for all the parents, speech and language therapists, teachers, whomever else, because don't forget, this isn't just about parents and carers and young people. It's about anybody that you know who works with your children should have contribute to this. So please do share it. So again, if you need any help or support running a group, a consultation party for your own group, then please let us know, and we can help share how we've actually done it, what's worked and what hasn't worked. We've also been breaking it down with our advisory group week by week, and with our adults with Down syndrome who are 18 plus at the charity as well. So hopefully they will really start to get some concrete answers. Now, at these consultation parties, people have been scribing, so they've handwritten on the easy reads, and we've physically posted them to the government. So yeah, we just need to make sure that they are listening. Our next stage will be to kind of leak some of these responses. So again, if there's anything that you are quite happy for us to share, if you go through it and there's quotes that you'd like us to put out, what we're worried about is that we do all of this work and it's just tiny tweaks around the edges, like things like the Down syndrome specific training and some of the errors aren't changed. So we want to make sure that we leak some of the responses ahead of the closing date, so it's out there in the public domain already, so that we can, hold them to account, really. Okay. And please do, the more people we used to have about 75 MPs as part of the APPG, then they dissolved Parliament, which is really unhelpful. And now we've only got about 40 MPs. So we could really do with if you could write to your MP and ask, there's 630 odd MPs in Parliament. So if you could write to your MP and ask them to be part of the APPG, we'd be delighted. And again, all this resources on our website. You can send them this invitation. That would be fantastic. And one last plug from my perspective. I'm sure you've got something else, Nick. So we are running, the National Down Syndrome Policy Group are running our second summit. And so this is a summit, it's just a joyful event. This is a summit that's led by people with Down syndrome, for people with Down syndrome. And I'm probably not the best person to talk about this. Lou is probably the best person to talk about it because she's done all the hard work. See this tree in the background. She was a mass creator of this last year, and it's their opportunity to have their voices heard and to meet with other like-minded people. So this year we will be talking about the Down Syndrome Act, and we will be asking them to vote with their feet. So we'll be asking them and teaching them specific questions around the Down Syndrome Act about diagnostic overshadowing, and then we'll be videoing them, on those like viral videos where you say, do you like Marmite? Yes or no? And our members will be moving left or right. So do you want your teachers to be trained in specific training about Down syndrome? Yes or no? and our members will be voting, and it's a really accessible way. Talking about human rights, we've got a dance-a-thon going on. We've invited some celebs like Ellie and Vito and H. We don't know whether or not they're going to come there yet. But anyway, my shout out to you is please share, and we would love to see as many adults with Down syndrome as possible. We have a small bursary where we can help with some of your travel costs. So we'd just love it if as many people as possible could get involved and get their voices heard. So that's me, Nick. I'm sure you've got something that
Thank you
you'd
very
like
much.
to say as
Yes, now I need to do a final little plug about World Down Syndrome Day, and actually at the end we'll just recap on something. So yeah, it would be remiss of me with a less than a month to go not to give a shout out to some of the opportunities for our families to get involved in raising awareness and funds. World Down Syndrome Day is significant for us as a charity. We typically raise about 20% of our income, and we can only do that through our families supporting us to enable us to do the work we do. I know this evening we talked about the policy group, which is the charity we had to set up because Down Syndrome UK can't lobby, or support the policy group. I don't mind. We need your support. So we've got people leaping out of planes on the 21st of March, because it being a Saturday, it makes it quite easy for people to attend. I think we've got 3 or 4 different sites across the UK. We always do tons on social media, so do take a look on our website. You can have the personalised frames. We make bespoke little videos that feature your child talking about what they, photos of them and what they enjoy. Take on a 21 challenge. Every man and his dog does that now. Funky socks have always been about. We prefer funky to odd. And for the schools, we've run the Down Syndrome UK Sunflower Challenge for several years. I think they've almost sold out of packs. I think they've probably got about 50 left. And then there's tons of resources as well for your schools. If your child's school or a sibling want to run lesson plans around Down syndrome, perhaps an assembly, there are pre-prepared resources that they can access for free and deliver those in early years and primary school settings. And finally, for those who are at work, we have a bank of resources that people can share with their work colleagues to sort of educate and inform. So that concludes this evening. I did think, obviously we are sending out lots of information to you afterwards. Oh, I've lost you all now. But I was just thinking whether it was worth just summarising the 3, if you feature only 3 things to our sort of, I'd say our priorities that we want to get across to the government is the Down syndrome specific training, diagnostic overshadowing, and the fact that they're referring to people with Down syndrome may have a learning disability, and equally they also say may have speech and language delay. So they're the 3 things that we're, if we prioritise anything, if you only write about 3 things, they're the ones would be fantastic if you could cover, please.
And I think I've seen a question about the white paper in the EHCP.